My formal name right now is called Venerable Dr. Yifa. Well, but most people call me Yifa. I was born in Taiwan and raised in Taiwan until 1988. And I came to United States to for my further education. So I studied my master's degree in Hawaii and finished my PhD in religious study at Yale University. So from 2002, I started a foundation called Wooden Fish Foundation. Its origin is come from the Chinese Buddhism. We use a piece of wood and shape, carve like the fish head, and we hit it this as a Dharma instrument. So it means, diligence, because it takes the meaning, the metaphor from the fish's eyes, it's always open. And so we have to work in very hard. And the other one is also means awakening. And third one, because all the Chinese monks and nuns, when we doing the chanting, we hit this piece of the instrument for the in unison. So it means a harmony. So wooden fish in Chinese Buddhism has the meaning diligence, awakening, and harmony. And what I have been doing is to bring college students from all kinds of background, very inclusive. Either you have any faith or not, or you are Muslim, or you are, Christian, and or Buddhist, or no belief. All you are all welcome to come to our program and to experience Buddhist monastic life in the temple in Asia. So the first 10 years was done in Taiwan, and these past 10 years we have been carried out in mainland China. But right now the situation in China, so we have to come back to United States. But we plan to have this monastic life program in Taiwan starting from this year. But of course, right now, because the pandemic, so now, we couldn't do anything, for these years. Besides kind of provide experience, the spiritual experience for college students, and we also create all kinds of meeting for scholars and graduate students too. So many, what I have to say, the wooden fish is very much emphasized on the provide education for scholar and college student, and now right now we also extend to high school student, young people. So mainly I have to say it's a educational, international exchange program. I always appreciate that what I have been developed the Wooden Fish Foundation up to today. Many of the idea, many of the engagement, for example, like at UN, it's all come from the Temple of Understanding. The Temple of Understanding is also like my foster mother for Wooden Fish. Yeah. when I was 20 years old, I was studying at the law school in Taiwan, the best university in Taiwan. At that time, I meant to become a lawyer. The final goal is become a politician. However, I went to monastery and I did the meditation just for 2 weeks. Then it totally changed the path of my life. I shaved my head, and then I became a nun. Since then, it has been 41 years right now. So I think education is more important than for me, just try to become a politician. This is what I feel, because the Buddhism provide me a more profound philosophy for the life value, not only for myself, and also the way I see that the Buddhist philosophy to do with our society. For example, you talk about cause and effect, causality, and it reminds it's very important what we do. In Buddhism, we always mention that the bodhisattva, a practitioner, care more about the cause and condition. But the ordinary people, they care about the result. What does it mean is most people, they will not, realize, they won't realize until the result or the consequences affect them. But for kind of an awakening person, they will know that if I take this action, if I plant the seed, if I, grow this condition, then the result will come. So you have to deal with the cause first. So this is very important for me, that, we have to pay attention to our karma, to our action. My thought, my words, my action from the very beginning. So the good course, good condition will bring the good result. And the other things, Buddhism is very important, extend, the way we see the space and time. So it's not just kind of look at it right now, but we know what we become right now is from the past. And so the same logic, what will happen in the future is depend on what we are doing right now. So this is about, kind of about the sense of time, and also about the space. Sometimes we kind of very much limited on just humankind. But in Buddhism, I always talk about Buddhism, not just talk about human rights, but also talk about the right for all the sentient beings. Now, Buddhism talk about sentient being and interconnection, like we all interconnected. So all this, the philosophy and value, it's all makes sense right now if we look at it, what happened, in our society now. No matter about climate change or the international conflicts, you know, it all provides a good perspective from Buddhism. So if we talk about any of age-cutting thoughts to deal with the climate change, when we come to the age-cutting, we probably think about technology or science. The first one, I have to say, yes, I did, in the past few years, I have been holding a seminar. It's called Buddhism, Science and Future, in Shanghai, in Shenzhen, China, and also in Seattle too. So this is a very good approach to Buddhism and science. I think just like His Holiness Dalai Lama mentioned that Buddhism, or even we talk about religion, we need to bring the conversation, between religion and the science. And for myself, it's a good education. So I will continue to do that, even though I come back to United States, and maybe I'm do kind of advertisement that I would like to carry out this Buddhism, science and future, this topic in Harvard and MIT area, because there were so many people in this field, and we are so many experts in this area. And of course, in the future, we will take back to Asia as well. But as I mentioned, I think that I am still a student for science. I'm not, a scientist, and I do not have that professional training in technology too. But I have to say that I find this is amazing in our life, that, for example, we can use the iPhone, and with this Zoom conference, it's just amazing. Like it breaks the obstacle about the distance. And so maybe I have to add one word. This is almost like what we call the psychic power. In the past we won't be able to do that, but right now through the technology, just like add a lot of the psychic power to us. But anyway, so as I mentioned, I'm not professional trained as a scientist or in technology. So when I come to this issue, and I have a great faith on our development of technology, and I also believe that we should bring more technology and to tackle this the climate change issue. Of course, that we also need to recognize the first one as Buddhism. If you come to Buddhism, people ask you, what is the Buddhist teaching? And everybody will tell you impermanence, change. So about the climate change, if you look at from a Buddhist perspective, yes, everything changed, include the climate change. Okay, that is one thing. But secondly, of course, everything will change, but we also, according to the karma theory, are we going to change into the good direction or the bad direction? It depends on our our cause and condition, the way we put it there. So I think that still in our mind, we accept that climate is changing, but also from the karma, we have to believe that we can put a lot of good condition and way to change it. But of course, that Buddhism did talk about, if we look at the whole world, everything conditioned, it's always, come to be and then stayed for prosperity and then declined and then deceased, like a come to, so in Chinese we call 生住意灭, the come to be, stay for prosperity and have a good condition, but also decline and finally deceased. It's include what we call the micro universe. Maybe, for example, like our body as well, our life, and then our Earth life. So this might be kind of a tendency, but as I mentioned, that it also depends on, what kind of a condition we can make it. So I will not say that, I have any kind of edge cutting, kind of knowledge, but I would actually say that I would rather say this is a kind of more like an old wisdom. As a religious person, I find that from the philosophy, for example, for me, I find the wisdom and value in Buddhist teaching. So this is an old wisdom, yes. And if I may, I would like to say that since I talk about the old wisdom, but I also find very important, I like to kind of, bring down to the earth, bring down to earth, or more close to individual. When we talk about climate change, as I mentioned, that in technology, in science, we should pursue, but I also find that individual, the practice is very important. Indeed, sometimes even we as environmentalists, but when we come to examine our personal life, I find that, in our individual life, we waste a lot of resources and energy as well. As a Buddhist nun, of course, that, in the monastery, it always, from the beginning of the time of the Buddha, always emphasize that monks and nuns, the clothing, the food, always need to, be restrained from luxurious. Always need to be kind of modest, I should say. Of course, there are some people practice aesthetic, but most of the monks and nuns, at least you have to practice, modest, like a middle path in the, not indulgent the life. So what I mean is the way I always say that if we talk about climate change, let's look at it, each of our individual, the way we take the resources, from our society. Frankly, I remember that a long time ago, I wrote a book and I mentioned about that we always say, okay, don't eat the junk food, and I mentioned, say, okay, let's time to time examine that, do we have junk stuff? And many people, they think that, well, I have money, I can buy all kinds of things. But the issue is, I always tell my students, yes, you can afford of buying so many stuff, but our Earth Mother cannot afford for this kind of a consuming. Of course, when I say this one, it's kind of against the consumerism. You know, in economic, they encourage people, you know, you should go to spend money and then stimulate the economic. But I also think that we have so far right now we only have one Earth, you know, and if we do not have that, you know, conscience about that we only have, you know, certain limits of the resources and only have one Earth. And everyone just try to deprive you know, all kinds of resources from the Earth. And that, you know, someday we will just, like water, as we all know about the water, and maybe, you know, of course, food through the technology, we have the way, you know, genetic, we develop all kinds of genetic food, maybe in order to feed many people, but still, you know, now the climate change. So what I try to say is, let's examine junk food, junk stuff, or even I mentioned about junk mail, junk information, you know, we call fake news, you know, all kind of junk data, junk information in our life, and junk emotion, or even the junk thought. So this is what we call detachment, you know. Always regularly examine that in our life, you know. And have we accumulate a lot of unnecessary stuff, and maybe we individually we deprive from our society. So I always say, you know what, take what we need, not what we want. Because for each individual, that what we need, it's very limited. But our desire is unlimited. And so if we let our desire continue to develop, and that is the way we invade other people's, you know, resources as well. You know? So in Chinese, always mention like 良田千顷，睡觉只不过6尺. That means even you have 1,000 acre, but when you sleep, you just need a, you know, 6 feet bed. You know, even though you have a lots of house, and the 满汉全席, you know, 你吃不过就是一碗，就是 you know, even though you have all kinds of food on the table, but you know, you only have one stomach. And this is always the ways, you know, in mainland China. I know sometimes I see that kind of banquet or party. It's waste a lot of food, you know. And so I hope that when we talk about climate change, we should think about, you know, from our individual, you know, try to practice detachment, you know, examine all unnecessary stuff and or food, material. And of course, when we talk about economy, yes, I mean, we need to kind of produce, and we need to have the good economy, but also thinking about it, that there are so many people in the different country, or different, in the same country, you also have the, you know, different area, the countryside, the poverty area, that many kids, many people still need the food. So besides the detachment practice, I think that we need to practice called dana. Dana means sharing, offering. So this is what we talk about, the equality of resources sharing. This is a kind of a, old wisdom. But the most important thing is we need to do it. We need to, from our individual, and examine ourselves and carry out the action and just do it. Very interesting that recently I started to read what we call the Vinaya, translate from Pali language. Vinaya means the precept for the monastic, for the monks and nuns. And there was an episode, very interesting, that before we come to about the Buddha set up all the rules or vow for the monks and nuns, at his time. And it was started with famine. That means the monks and nuns do not they go out for alms, but because the local are so poor, so they cannot even get the food. One of the Buddha's disciple called Mangalana, and it was told that Mangalana do have a kind of a psychic power. He was able to find good food, but the way he said is, my Lord, that means the Buddha, let me go to invert, according to the language, let me go to invert, I-N-V-E-R-T, invert to earth, and I will find the monks and nuns about the nutritious essence of water plants. Okay, and the Buddha say, take care, means be cautious. That Mangalara, if you do so, then you will bring the damage to all the sentient beings who are supported by the earth. And so he said, take care, Mangalala, means be cautious, Mangalalas. Please do not invert the earth, or beings may meet the derangement. I find that this is very beautiful, from at the very beginning of the text, in Buddhist precept, that the Buddha, kind of bring the cautions for, like bring the cautions to his disciple that don't, because just a human being, you also have to consider that our earth has been supported to all kinds of beings, not just a human being. So I find that these, these statements, it's just, now when we are talk about the climate change, we talk about the environmental issue, and this is the old wisdom from the Buddha, And so, I think that we can use this one more like a, quote, be cautious, monks and nuns, please do not invert the earth, or beings may meet with the derangement. I should say that we find many of the inspiration and wisdom in the Buddhist teaching. The first one, you know, interconnection. You know, we all live in a world of interdependence and then interconnected worlds. So our karma, our action will affect to the other people, not just people, or to the other sentient being as well. And indeed, that in Buddhism, three so-called the world, you know, pay the respect to. The first one is called Jie, the realm of all the sentient beings, you know, the living beings. And the second one is talk about the realm of the world, the physical world we living in. So in the Buddhist teaching, from the very beginning, that the Buddha always, you know, talk about, you know, the realm, you know, of a sentient being. That means that we need to pay attention to all the sentient beings, humankind, and the other animal, and the other, you know, maybe we call the non-human beings, okay? All the sentient beings. The secondly, also talk about, we call Guotu, that means the land, you know, the world of the land, the world of a sentient being, and the world of land. You know. So it's the earth. Right now, we live as the earth. And so, yes, it's a lots of wisdom, you know, for not just you know, take care individual ourselves, but also extend our compassion, you know, loving kindness, and also, you know, from our individual and to others and to all the sentient beings. And we also pay respect to the world of land.